Podcasting from an undisclosed location somewhere in Ireland, we are crazy for film, television, video games, and much, much more. I am your cult leader, Tompott, and the host of the only podcast with an actual cult following, the Pop Cult Pod. Welcome to this week's show. Missed a week. Just a few explanations for why I missed a week. The episode previous to this came out quite late in the week, came out on I think a Friday. I didn't think I would be able to do it exactly a week after for this episode, and I'd had to wait because I was seeing Shazam late on Wednesday, which meant I wouldn't be able to get my thoughts together or record coming up to the weekend. So it would have been very, very tight if I got it out at all, and I just wouldn't have been happy with the quality of the review. I was also working the whole week, and I had a friend over from Germany who I was trying to spend a bit of time with. So overall, there was quite a few reasons why this was late. But, you know, I haven't missed a week up to this, so not the end of the world. I'll try and make it up after. Maybe I can still get 50 episodes out this year, or 52, or whatever ends up happening. Who knows? That's way too much. That being said, there wasn't really a lot of news overall. I kind of had to scrape the bottom of the barrel here when I was making my Kool-Aid, so we'll try our best. We'll drink up a bit of the Kool-Aid. Now, we'll start with some video game news. Now, when it comes to video game news, I do try to report on it, but generally what happens a lot of the time is there's either one massive bit of news or not much at all to discuss, and this one I think is probably worthy of mention. It's not something that means much to me, but Borderlands 3 was revealed this week. It's been teased for a long, long time, but we finally got a trailer that was shown at PAX East. We didn't get much information from this trailer. I think we're getting more information on this tomorrow, April 3rd. And here's what we gathered from the trailer. You can play as one of 4 new characters: Amara, who's a muscular, super-powered siren; Mose, a soldier and mech driver; Zane, who is older and uses holograms; and a robot named Flack, who summons beasts. So we get a lot of other returning characters from the last 3 games, and there's even characters from the Telltale spin-off. Now, I will say I'm not a Borderlands fan. I tried playing the first one. It wasn't really for me. People are obviously very excited about this, though. Now, I have heard people say that they're disappointed in this trailer. They just find that it's not delivering on the hype, because I think this is like 5 years between this and the last Borderlands game. And they just say it doesn't really seem that different. It seems a little bit too similar. As I said, I'm not really a fan, so I don't think I should judge that. There was also a rumour yesterday. There was a deleted tweet that stated that it was coming out September 13th. Maybe we'll know that for sure during the week when it's coming out. What was more interesting, and this is far from confirmed, but there is a bit of evidence to suggest this might be going exclusively on the Epic Store, which I think I've seen a lot of people pissed off about the possibility of that. I know a lot of people that use Linux especially are disappointed, because I think Gearbox Software, who make these games, has been very Linux supportive, and there is no Linux version of Epic Store from my knowledge. And also the fact that you can't get on Epic Store in some countries. So I don't know what the whole logic is. I'm guessing they got given a lot of money for it from Epic. But I think if that does go ahead, there is a chance we could see a lot of pissed off fans. Well, speaking of pissed off fans, let's talk about the Star Wars franchise. We got a Star Wars Episode 9 poster leak, allegedly. So there's a few things we should probably clarify about this poster first. For one, it hasn't been confirmed as legit, as you would expect. It doesn't seem to be a photo. It looks more likely to be kind of art. Something you might see maybe when they're advertising merchandise or for promotional material. But it does look very genuine, and a few things that people are using to discredit it is that Mark Hamill said on Twitter he believes it to be the work of a fan. Now, I believe in the past he has, used Twitter to shield people from spoilers or discredit a leak, so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he might just be saying that to, give the leak a lack of legitimacy. Now, another thing we should note is that a lot of the details on this poster line up with things we might have heard from certain spoilers. For example, the costumes our main characters seem to be wearing also match a photo that they put up for the last day of filming. And while you could say, hey, maybe this person who created this art just saw that photo and went with those costumes, I think it's more likely that it's just genuine, because that would be a lot of work to put in, because there's other details here that line up with other leaks that we'll get to in a sec. Probably the most damning thing is that Disney are apparently sending cease and desist notices to people who have posted it saying take it down. It seems very legit. If you're watching this on YouTube, I can't show you the poster because I don't want to get the video taken down, of course. There are some aspects of the poster, though, that we probably should talk about. For one, there seems to be a new band of stormtroopers. There's these kind of crimson red stormtroopers at the bottom of the poster that look incredibly menacing. It seems like it's a new wave or a new rank of stormtroopers, so that should be quite interesting. We also see the return of the Knights of Ren, who I believe were more or less forgotten in the last film, but of course were introduced in Force Awakens, which was also J.J. Abrams' film, so he's kind of coming full circle and bringing them back. One of the more troubling, concerning, or odd aspects is that C-3PO is holding Chewbacca's bowcaster, which I've never really thought of C-3PO being a warrior or using a gun, so it looks a little odd. I think he'd be quite useless in a battle, to be honest. We get our first look at what is presumably Kerry Russell's character, who I think the rumour is that she's called Zori. She's wearing kind of gold and purple outfit, and that does line up with a rumoured leak from a few months back, that someone said that was her costume. So, again, a lot of proof that this could be the real deal. And finally, we get Naomi Aki, who is rumoured to be playing Lando's daughter. So we see her as well. We don't have long to go until Star Wars Celebration. It's in the middle of April. I think it's the 11th to the 15th or something. We'll probably get some more details then. In fact, we might even find out how real this poster is. But as of now, it looks like the real deal. So probably our first, or at least our best look at Star Wars Episode 9. That's not the only talk we're going to be doing, though, about Mark Hamill. We actually got some casting news involving him this week. When we go to our usual segment, Cast Podcast, a lot of casting news this week, so I'll try to get through it pretty quickly. But of course, Mark Hamill is going to be the voice of Chucky in the Child's Play remake, starring Audrey Plaza. So that could explain why there wasn't so much of him in that initial trailer, and hopefully it means that when we get our next trailer, we get a little bit of voice work, see a bit more Chucky, because I think that's a very good choice. Obviously, if you've heard his voice work, he's very, very diverse, and of course, probably most iconically and famously known as the voice of the Joker, so he can definitely do a sort of sinister growl of a voice, which I think is suited to Chucky when he does become possessed, or technology gone awry, or whatever spin this one is taking. We also got talk of Cillian Murphy, who is apparently in talks to join A Quiet Place 2. Bit of an odd choice. He's a great actor though, so why not? Space Jam 2 also got casting. Sonequa Martin Green, probably best known from Star Trek Discovery and The Walking Dead, is set to join LeBron in that movie. Scooby-Doo, the animated movie we talked about a few weeks ago. I had assumed that Frank Welker was going to be voicing Fred, because I believe he had done that for a while. I didn't know that for sure. But it seems now that Zac Efron is going to be voicing Fred, and Amanda Seyfried is going to be playing Daphne, which really makes you think this would work so much better as a live action with the cast they have so far. But oh well. I mean, not bad choices. Just seems like kind of stunt celebrity casting that's unnecessary though. But then again, I think that's a lot of voice work in animated movies in general. He-Man is going to be played by Noah Centineo. I don't know who he is. I wrote down what something he was in, but I can't remember. I think he's in a Netflix show. But sure, why not? Christopher Nolan's latest has also started casting. There's already one person cast, and that's John David Washington from BlacKkKlansman. But this week we found out that Robert Pattinson and Elizabeth Debicki are also going to be in the film. Those are two great actors. I like how so far, at least, he's going with sort of a younger cast, people who are sort of upcomers. Robert Pattinson is really, really showing that he's a proper actor, not just the guy from Twilight. If you haven't seen him in Good Time, he's brilliant in that. And Elizabeth Debicki, no, she was fantastic in Widows, and I didn't think Widows was a great film, but she was very good in it. And she was also fantastic in, oh god, what was that called? Tom Hiddleston, the Night Manager. There we go. Yeah, she's fantastic, so it's really, really good additions to the movie so far. Also, casting wise, we got a bit of comic book movie casting. One of them is odd. Jai Courtney has said he's going to return as Captain Boomerang for the Suicide Squad sequel, which we were really getting the idea that this was a reboot, so maybe it's not as much of a reboot as you thought. Maybe they're saying reboot to distance it from the last one. Maybe they're just being selective about it, but I guess unless they just say to Jai Courtney, "Yeah, you're back," and then went, "He's not coming back, no chance." I don't know. I will say, I'm not a big Jai Courtney fan. He's a pretty awful actor, in my opinion. He was okay in Suicide Squad, though. He's pretty entertaining. I mean, he more or less seemed to be playing a version of himself. So, you know, I'm sorry that James Gunn could do something good with a character like Captain Boomerang, so I guess bring it on. You know, he was entertaining in the last one, so I don't see why he couldn't be at least serviceable in this role. The last bit of casting news, which again, I'll put rumour on this, hasn't been confirmed, which, as you would expect, because it's very, very secretive. But it did sound like this was in advanced negotiations, like a deal might be very close, and that is that Marvel are making an Eternals movie and they want Angelina Jolie to lead it, which presumably will be the role of Cersei. So, again, we probably won't hear much about the Eternals or even whether Angelina Jolie is involved in it until after Endgame. We might get a bit more of a slate announcement then, get a clear idea of what the next Marvel phase is going to look like. Here's what we do know about the Eternals. So, a lot of people are saying it's going to be essentially a romance story between Cersei, which is going to be the character Angelina Jolie would play, and Icarus, and that would take place over centuries or basically a long time span, because the Eternals are more or less immortal. Just to give you an idea of what they might be capable of, Thanos is an Eternal. In fact, his father is also an Eternal, and he was briefly mentioned by the Red Skull in Infinity War. He said he was like the son of Aelars. That was his dad, and an Eternal as well. So that could probably be a connection that we might see there. But we don't really know where this is going to fit in to Marvel's plans going forward, or what it means. But Angelina Jolie as a lead would certainly be quite a good get. She doesn't tend to do many major acting projects anymore, so I think it would be good for them. And it would probably also just be bringing in maybe a possibly different market, which would be interesting. I don't know what this Eternal movie is going to look like yet. It's still very early on. It could just be, they were trying to make that Inhumans movie, and it sounded like they weren't that interested in it, but this could almost be a surrogate for that. So we will see as more details come out, which presumably will be over the summer. Once they're clear of Endgame, I imagine we get a better idea of what the next phase of the Marvel Universe will look like. So if we're going to talk about Disney and Marvel, let's talk about the Disney-Fox merger. Because I was going to talk about this last episode, it was close to closing. And I thought that I'd wait a while to see if we got a bit of better idea of what the future would hold, or whether it be business as normal. Obviously, we knew we were likely to get a lot of layoffs. And look, let's say one thing first, as far as the layoffs go, because I've seen people that are, of course, ecstatic because Fantastic Four and the X-Men, especially, are coming back to Marvel, and people are saying, "Oh, well, you can't be excited, you can't be happy. All these people are losing their jobs." And look, that's obviously horrible. But at the end of the day, Fox were going to sell. And that would have meant a loss of jobs to whoever bought it. And it's probably better that Disney bought them compared to Comcast. So, in the long run, it's sad, but hopefully these people will find their feet. And there's nothing that could have been done. If Fox were going to sell, Fox were going to sell. And that's just the way it is, unfortunately. But let's look at a bit of the fallout, for lack of a better term. I would say the biggest development is the closure of Fox 2000. So Fox 2000 were sort of an indie film division for Fox, I suppose, generally a mid-budget or smaller budget studio. A lot of stuff they put out were kind of YA and that kind of thing. Now, I think Disney had said at first that they weren't going to close this, so I don't know what to make of that. As far as the indie label at Fox, it's kind of a strange one that they had Fox 2000 at all, because they also have Fox Searchlight, which I would say is better known and puts out probably more reputable films. So not entirely surprising that this was closed. Something had to give. There's still Fox Searchlight, so presumably there will, to some degree, still be some films put out on an independent label from the Fox brand, as it were. With regards to the layoffs in general, it seems like there's going to be about 4,000 people let go. That's the estimate, at least. And it's not just people kind of below the line. We've seen a few executives, a few people in television, and a few other, I guess, sub-studios or branding people also been laid off this week, so we will see where that ends up. The big question about all of this is the films that Fox have in development. Most of them would probably release as you would expect, but the ones that people are questioning, of course, are the X-Men films, because there was a slate of X-Men films. As you would expect, that slate is basically all dead. But the only one that we've heard anything about, or that's been commented on, was by Simon Kinberg, where he talked about Gambit, and he said that Disney is evaluating Gambit. There is no chance we're getting that movie. Let's be completely honest here. It wouldn't happen under Fox. Consistently, it couldn't happen. There's no way it's going to happen now. It would make no sense. Disney owns a script to it, I guess, assuming there is still a proper script to it, because that thing kept getting rewritten, so I can't imagine that's going to go anywhere. The big question marks, of course, were the other X-Men movies, which were Dark Phoenix and New Mutants. So let's talk about the simpler of the two first. Dark Phoenix. Alright, so there was talk just before the merger. People were kind of, I guess, insiders, if you want to call it that. And again, healthy dose of salt with all these stories. They made it sound like there's no one giving commands anymore, because the people in charge don't know if they're going to have a job under Disney. There's no point trying to push a film that they don't really know the status of. So the marketing and all that, for that reason, has been all over the place. It sounds like the inmates are running the asylum, for lack of a better term. People that don't have experience in this thing are, advertising it and not really sure what to do. I know Simon Kinberg is on the press circuit kind of promoting. I think they showed some footage at, was it WonderCon recently? Regardless of the quality of this movie, regardless of what happens next, this movie's going to come out. The budget's too big for it to not come out. It's going to be released theatrically. Whether or not Disney more or less buries it and doesn't really promote it, that's the next question. Who knows when it's going to come out? At the moment, I think it's dated for June. Presumably, it's going to keep that date. We don't know how much marketing they're going to put into it or what happens after that. That's the real question. So, it's a movie that seems to be in limbo, and I saw Simon Kinberg said something along the lines of, this was always meant to be the end of the X-Men films. So, regardless, it's the end of the X-Men universe. Presumably, I don't think it was ever meant to be the end of it. I'm sure under Fox, if this had been a success or whatever, they probably would have kept going, because even the ones that haven't been entirely successful, they've made another movie of them. So that's the end of the X-Men universe, I guess. We might talk about that coming up to the release of Dark Phoenix, have a bit of a memorial for the X-Men movies. But the bigger question mark, of course, is New Mutants, which was in trouble even when it was at Fox. So now it's like it's another ratchet thrown into the gears of this movie, because we've been talking about this from my first episode, and we're talking about how much of a mess it was, and it sounds like it's not any clearer what is going on with this movie, but it's just evident how much of a mess it is. So there was obviously, where we last left this, was that there's meant to be reshoots. None of those reshoots happened. Fox didn't seem to know what they wanted. I guess they just figured they'll wait out the clock and Disney can deal with it and do whatever, because what's the point of putting all this extra money into a movie you're not going to live to see, essentially? There was no point Fox trying to make this movie work when there wasn't really going to be a Fox when it was done. So those reshoots didn't happen. The question some people have is, are Disney going to do the reshoots? I would suggest not. I don't know why they would. From the sounds of it, okay, and again, we don't entirely know the story of this, and it just hurts my head. But it was originally like they wanted the movie to be one way. I think it was, they wanted it to be PG-13. Then they saw the success of It, and they wanted it to be darker, scarier, more horror-focused, which is what the director wanted initially anyway. And now that hasn't happened, presumably they still have a complete, more or less, PG-13 version of this movie. So I think Disney will just release that and be done with it. Wash their hands of the whole affair. Obviously, everyone thought it was going to end up on streaming. That presumably is going to be the case. Macy Williams, who's in the film, she made some statements during the week about the movie and was pretty blunt. She didn't exactly mince words. She said, who knows when the fuck that's going to come out? Which, fair question, Macy. Who knows? August, apparently. That's not going to happen anymore. She was trying to talk about a bit more. She said basically, film was supposed to go through reshoots in an effort to make it scarier, which confirms the reports we were hearing. And then she said the reshoots obviously never happened. She even asked her co-star Charlie Heaton what's going on with this movie, and I've actually censored her there. And he didn't have any answers either. So it looks like no one knows what's going on with this movie. And we haven't heard from the director, Josh Boone, I think his name is. He was apparently involved even when this whole mess was going down. Who knows what is happening with New Mutants, because it seems like we're no clearer to getting an answer. This could just be swept under the rug, more or less, and I think the equivalent to doing that is putting it on a streaming service like Hulu. So, again, the Disney-Fox deal is still very much in the early days. I didn't want to talk about it in my previous episode because it was basically had just happened and who knew what was going to happen. We're getting a slow idea of what the future might hold. So actually, another thing, as far as the X-Men universe goes, James McAvoy said, well, he was asked if he could play anyone in the DC universe, who would he play? And he said, the Riddler. So it sounds like he's more or less ready to jump ship from the X-Men franchise, which is going to happen anyway. I mean, Disney are just going to want to do their own thing. They're not going to bring anyone back, I would say. Which, if there was an actor who was great in the franchise, James McAvoy was certainly there, and so was Michael Fassbender. They were both great in their roles, but unfortunately I think they probably have plans for younger X-Men, because if you bring them in, you're just asking all sorts of timeline and continuity questions, which they probably don't want to even try to answer because it's too much of a mess. Another franchise, of course, the Fantastic Four, which is going back to Marvel. Of course, the X-Men slate now is more or less wiped clean. None of the upcoming movies for there are going to go anywhere. But Noah Hawley was working on a script for Doctor Doom. And I think he said that basically that script is now the property of Marvel, which that's as you would expect, because anything that was in the works at Fox, regardless of what stage it was in, is now owned by Marvel. And he kind of said, like, oh, well, we'll see what happens. And I think, like, Noah Hawley is a very good, like, a strong creator. He's a good creative voice, and it would be interesting to see what his take on that script was. I don't think it's likely that we're going to get it, but I think it probably has more chance than any of the other stuff they've picked up from Fox. Maybe there is elements you could take from that to put in a Fantastic Four film for characterization Doctor Doom, because I'd imagine, like, forget about the X-Men. The X-Men, of course, will eventually come to Marvel, but I think for now their priority probably is the Fantastic Four, because there's a whole range of other characters tied up in the Fantastic Four universe that would work well for a villain to replace Thanos, like, of course, Galactus, Silver Surfer, and, you know, Doctor Doom. Those are all characters that would really work if they're expanding into a cosmic direction and in need of a new villain. In fact, at one point, I think this was around maybe 2012, 2013, when the rights for Daredevil were about to expire at Fox. They told Fox that they could keep the rights to Daredevil if they were to give them the rights to the Silver Surfer. So they obviously have some sort of plan for this character, and I think maybe right now the priority shouldn't be the X-Men. Leave the X-Men cool off, because the X-Men franchise has been running for like 20 years now. Regardless of the quality, which has been up and down, those movies are successful because of how many there have been, if nothing else. Maybe let the X-Men cool off for a little bit. Fantastic Four should be the top priority, but again, we're unlikely to see any of these re-emerge until at least maybe 2021, late 2021, probably 2022, more likely. They're a while away yet. Obviously, though, this merger isn't just about X-Men and Fantastic Four, as much as they've been kind of the dominating ones when it comes to the conversation and the properties they're going to acquire. Just having a look at some of the franchises they're going to have their hands on. Alien, Avatar, Planet of the Apes, Predator, Die Hard, Kingsman, Ice Age. I wonder what the future for some of those are. Whether or not we could see a case where they might sell some of those properties. Maybe. I mean, looking through the list here, Alien, I wonder what you could do with that one. See, the thing is, a lot of these franchises are either at a point where they've kind of finished, or maybe they're at their lowest point. Like, let's look through that list again. So we have Alien Covenant came out a few years ago. Was widely derided. I think that series is in trouble. I think the only thing you could do is maybe try get that reboot going, Alien 5, and get Neil Blomkamp on board. But whether or not that's probably a big investment to just do right off the bat. There was talk of a TV series. There was a lot of rumours of that. In fact, this week Noah Hawley said that he was turned down to make a mini-series based on Alien, but maybe that's the approach to go. Maybe you just have to sort of build up again, because some of these are, I wouldn't call them dead franchises, but they're at a point where they need a fresh approach. Looking at the next one, Avatar, of course, multitude of Avatar sequels are in the works. The second one I think is coming out next year, 2020, and Avatar 3, 4 and 5 are in various stages of production. So look, Disney have Avatar in their theme parks. It's obviously now in their best interest for it to succeed. And the first one, regardless of how you feel about it, personally I'm not a fan. It was the highest grossing film of all time, so you can never really rule out James Cameron, I guess, when it comes to this sort of thing. Planet of the Apes, we had that trilogy wrapped up in 2017, The War for the Planet of the Apes, and it didn't really do that well commercially. So I think they just need a fresh approach on the Apes franchise, but again, I don't think it's one that's a priority. I don't know if they think there's going to be massive money in Planet of the Apes right now. Predator, I mean, that's dead for now anyway. The one that came out last year by Shane Black tanked in every sense of the word. People didn't really like it, didn't make a lot of money. In fact, if there's any bonus from that, it is that people might have forgotten about it already. But yeah, I think that the Predator franchise needs a lot of work, and I don't really know what you could do to refresh it. Like, you could bring Arnold back, I guess, but I don't think that's any indication that it could work. How many failed Terminator sequels has he been in, you know? I don't know what you do with Predator. Or maybe you just say fuck it and throw Alien and Predator into a movie again and see how that works out. But I don't know. I think that's a franchise you need to be very careful. It might be another one that they have to try to build up some goodwill with a TV show. But again, who knows what that involves. Die Hard, of course. Like, they're getting a lot of huge action franchises from Fox. And it's a strange one because a lot of these are, you know, going back to films from the 80s, a lot of them. And they've kind of struggled to find their footing in modern times. So Die Hard, I mean, the last one was absolutely awful. I made a joke about it last episode. And I'm one of those people that didn't think not the last Die Hard, Live Free Die Hard was that bad. Personally, I thought it was fine. It wasn't great, like. I didn't think it was as bad as anyone said it was. But what do they call it? Good Day to Die Hard? I can't even remember the titles of these awful movies now. A Good Day to Die Hard, absolutely dreadful. They've been trying to make a sequel to that for a long time and it went nowhere. They said like half prequel, half modern one. In which case, like, no one wants to see that. Bruce Willis doesn't care anymore. So why should anyone else? I don't know what you do with that one. I don't think you can reboot Die Hard. Certainly can't remake it. People would be up in arms. But then again, you know, maybe just take John McClane. You could make it a period piece, I guess. Or just... maybe you can reboot it. But you have to be very, very careful with it. It can't be a straight reboot. Maybe just recast John McClane. And like even that is going to cause issues. Because it's a franchise that is so attached to Bruce Willis at this point, for better or worse. I mean, they've already tried more than once to have it be like Bruce Willis passing the torch. And that won't work. Maybe you do one last Bruce Willis one and just kill him off. And then in a couple of years you can reboot it. But again, I don't think Die Hard is one that works as a big franchise that they're going to, you know, carry on into the modern era. There's some of these films that they're acquiring that are more or less for legacy purposes, you know. Die Hard, or even they're getting the rights back properly to A New Hope. So now all of the films are properly under the Disney label. Another franchise they're getting, Kingsman. This one has probably more purpose than the rest of them. I mean, the second one, the Golden Circle or whatever it was a bit of a letdown, but they're working on a prequel. Maybe if that one's a success, they'll keep going with this franchise and get a third one out of it. Who knows? And presumably they are still releasing it under the Fox label. So, not the end of the world for that franchise, certainly. There could be money made in that. Ice Age, I think that one's done. It's been running for a long time now. The last one, I think, underperformed. And Disney have, you know, Pixar and their own animation studio to be worried about. So I think Fox's animation label, is it Blue Sky? I can't remember, is that their one? Yeah, they're likely not going to have many more releases, for better or worse. This is just a list of franchises that I saw on a poll, and I think that's actually the order they were chosen in that people were most excited to see. So it was Alien, but after Fantastic Four and X-Men, obviously, those were the top two. It was X-Men, Fantastic Four, I think. Then Alien, Avatar, Planet of the Apes, Predator, Die Hard, Kingsman, and Ice Age. So some of them really aren't that interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with a lot of them, to be honest with you. I don't know what you can do with some of these franchises. Also probably of note is that they briefly updated their homepage and included a few of their new acquisitions, and some people are looking into these a bit much, but we'll talk about them anyway. So 5 things they included. There was like a collage of 10 films, and of course it showed off stuff they already owned, like Star Wars, and had Toy Story 4 and Captain Marvel. It showed 5 new franchises that they got from Fox: The Shape of Water, Avatar, The Simpsons, Deadpool, and Atlantis. So what does that mean? Shape of Water, I mean, it won the Best Picture. It's showing that they're kind of art house, that they are still going to put out some award caliber movies under Fox. So not the end of the world. Avatar, I mean, it's the highest grossing film of all time. Why would you not advertise it? And it's a whole franchise that they're going to have going forward that is active, so it makes sense to advertise. The Simpsons, longest running show of all time, still running. So why wouldn't you show it? It's again one that has a sort of legacy attached to it. It's worth advertising that you own The Simpsons. It's probably one of the longest and biggest properties ever. So well worth showing that off. Deadpool, I think that's more or less being reassured that Deadpool isn't going anywhere. Because the Fox, X-Men and Fantastic Four are done, but it looks like Deadpool's going to remain around. In fact, Chris Hemsworth actually welcomed Ryan Reynolds to the MCU, and I think if there is a character you can carry over with less headache, it probably is Deadpool, because he can kind of make a whole joke about the thing. So who knows how he will be integrated, or if he will even be integrated into the main MCU. Maybe they'll just make solo Deadpool films, but I think that would be a bit of a mistake, because obviously you have him being tied to the X-Men world, and presumably you want a lot of the X-Men characters to be freed up for your X-Men films. So we don't know the specifics of how Deadpool is going to come over, but certainly he's going to stay around, whether it's removed from the MCU continuity, which I don't think it will be. Like, they introduced time travel in Deadpool 2. So there's possibly something you could do there. After Endgame, who knows what the status quo is going to be of this universe with regards to the rules of dimensions and time travel, so they could probably bring him over. You could always keep his solo films R-rated and then maybe do team-ups that are PG-13. Like they put out Deadpool 2, or was it Christmas version of Deadpool, or I can't remember, was it PG-13 version of Deadpool, went out in China. And people were saying, oh, this is a test for Disney. It wasn't, it was just so they could release it in China. But that could show that there is money in a PG-13 Deadpool. If you read the comics, he's always teaming up with people, and the character is probably a bit more PG-13 in a lot of versions. So I imagine that somewhere along the line he will join the rest of the Marvel Universe, because there is a lot of money to be made in that character. He's very popular. He works in team-ups, and you got to keep the humour up. Maybe he's a bit universe-breaking, I don't know. But we'll see how that holds up, or what happens with Deadpool. He's probably one of the characters I'm actually more interested in, because it's pretty obvious in the case of Fantastic Four that they're going to come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Same with the X-Men. What they do with Deadpool is going to be interesting. I want to see how that plays out. And the last one they highlighted on their new homepage was Atlanta. You know, again, showing that they're focused on television that's award-winning, focused on, or now own, I guess, FX. And again, showing off Donald Glover, who's really a very strong creative voice that they should be bragging about. So I think Atlanta Season 3 is coming out maybe this year. I don't know that for sure. But regardless, those are the properties they showed off very briefly, because they changed the homepage back, I think, by the end. But a lot of interesting acquisitions there. And I think we're still very early on to find out what is going to happen with some of these. But it should be incredibly interesting to see what the future for some of these franchises is, some of these films that are in development, and what's going to happen with their ongoing properties. TV shows that are in the works, or movie series that have been successful at Fox. Are they just going to port them over straight? Is there going to be a difference? Are we going to see some cancellations? Who knows? There are still a few films that are set to come out from Fox. I think notably there's one called Free Guy, which is starring Ryan Reynolds and Taika Waititi. It's like a video game. I think it's like a guy realizes he's in a video game. It sounds quite interesting. I think the Deadpool writers might be behind that one. I'd have to double check. They have also renewed some TV shows this week. I think they reviewed, was it Better Things on FX? And I think they reviewed, I think there's a show called The Resident, or 911 or something. Maybe those are two separate shows. I don't follow network TV most of the time because it's pretty boring. Those all got renewed, so it seems to be business as usual on the TV side, at least for now. There hasn't been any cancellations. Well, as we're talking to TV, let's talk about Apple TV Plus, which is their streaming service, which is set to launch soon. And we got a few more details in it, as well as a look into some of the shows. And I haven't read a lot of these shows, but I'll be going through them in a minute for the first time, I guess. So I put on a big presentation, had a few people presenting, and they're like, Apple's original video subscription service is going to have a new slate of programming from a lot of celebrated creative artists, and this is what they've said in their statement. And a few of the storytellers and artists, very pretentious sounding, is Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, who some people were like giving out to him because he was against Netflix, but here he is on another streaming service. And to be fair, look, I was against those comments. I think they were pretty stupid, and he did walk back them a bit. Or I think someone even said like, "Oh, he didn't say that," which is like the greatest deferral ever. It's like, "Oh no, that's not true." But those comments anyway were regarding a film being eligible for an Oscar if it's being put on a streaming service. Should it more likely be a TV movie as opposed to a TV series? But he's working on a TV series, which we'll come to in a sec. Also involved are Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, Octavia Spencer, J.J. Abrams, Jason Momoa, M. Night Shyamalan, John M. Chu, and quite a few more. So Eddie Q, Apple's Senior Vice President of Internet Software and Services, said, "We're honoured that the absolute best lineup of storytellers in the world, both in front of and behind the camera, are coming to Apple TV+. We're thrilled to give viewers a sneak peek of Apple TV Plus and cannot wait for them to tune in starting this fall. Apple TV Plus will be home to some of the highest quality original storytelling that TV and movie lovers have seen yet." So as I said, it's going to launch this fall. We did not get any pricing, which might be something to be concerned about. You want some sort of competitive price to Netflix at least. And if Disney Plus are also launching this fall, which I think they're going to launch before year end, the pricing for these is pretty vital to whether or not they're going to succeed. Now, the other issue And this was rumoured at the time. I don't think I've ever seen anything disputing this. And this was a news story for over a year now. So if it was not true, you would imagine that it would have been debunked by now. But that is that Apple have is it like no sex, no nudity, no language kind of policy. They want everything to be around PG-13, which is a pretty baffling move. Because, for one, if you're going into these streaming wars, presumably Disney is going to have the family market. And the adult market is probably going to go towards Netflix. So they're in this weird in-between now, where they're giving kind of network TV sort of content, possibly. And really, people buy streaming so they don't have to watch network TV. They want something akin to kind of a cable model. And when you look at the biggest shows of the past few years, especially on streaming, they're shows that aren't restricted in their quality and their content. So I think that might be a bad move, but regardless, let's look at some of the original shows they have planned. I have not looked through these. I think I've heard of maybe one of them prior to this. And I probably won't read all of them because there's a lot here. But this way we can just get a bit of a genuine reaction. So, first up is, of course, the Steven Spielberg one that we're hearing about, which is Amazing Stories. This was a kind of a science fiction and horror show that ran in the 80s. It wasn't really acclaimed critically a lot of the time, but it had a huge cult following. This is essentially a revival of that. There's going to be 10 episodes, and it could possibly cost as much as 5 million episodes, so it's certainly getting a budget. I do wonder if we're going to get the bottom of these falling out. These anthology shows, there's so many of them now. We just had the revival of The Twilight Zone, and of course we have Black Mirror, Love, Death and Robots, and that's only to name a few, so we have so many anthology shows now. But who knows, maybe this one could be good. I don't think the name is big enough to drag people in though. But if there was a show to be revived, I guess that's not a bad thing. You know, reviving an anthology series isn't a big deal, because it can be really brought back whenever, as we've seen from various iterations of The Twilight Zone, for example. The Morning Show, as you can guess, it's a show about a morning talk show. It's sort of a drama that's going to feature Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon. There's going to be 2 seasons of this. That was what the deal said. Other people involved apparently are going to be Steve Carell and Billy Crudup, and Gugu Mbatha-Raw, whose name I probably butchered, as is tradition on this show. Another show we got is For All Mankind, which is a space drama that explores what might have happened if the world was still in a space race. So if the space race essentially never ended. Which, okay, fine. The show is coming from Ronald D. Moore, who's worked on a lot of sci-fi, including Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, and Outlander, I think, recently enough. So he certainly has an impressive resume when it comes to sci-fi. I can't say the premise grabs me that much, but I could be wrong. Starring Joel Kinnaman, of course, from Altered Carbon and Suicide Squad. Another show that's coming is Truth Be Told, which was previously called Are You Sleeping? It's a drama based on a novel by Kathleen Barber and focuses on the story of a podcast that reopens a murder case. So obviously, you're thinking of Serial with this one. It's going to explore how the reopening of the murder case impacts the victim's daughter and impacts her life. Sarah Koenig, of course known for Serial, is consulting on the series, so they're really doubling down on Serial. There's another 10 episode order there. Has a pretty good cast though. Octavia Spencer is the lead. Aaron Paul is in it. Lizzie Kaplan is in it. Elizabeth Perkins. I mean, just to name a few. Pretty great. But again, whether this is going to be sort of a network procedural kind of crime drama, or whether it's going to be something more, remains to be seen. Of course, you need a balance. It can't all be scripted series, which is why our next one is a docu-series called Home. It's a documentary series that offers a never-before-seen look inside the most extraordinary homes in the world and the minds who dream them up. Sounds a little bit like Cribs, but not maybe celebrity houses, not really tacky celebrity houses. Maybe just some impressive homes, which, look, it's not for me, but I know there's definitely a market for that sort of stuff. It's looking at 10 1-hour episodes for that one. Another drama, I guess, called C. It's an epic post-apocalyptic drama where the world has been wiped out by a virus. There are survivors, but all the survivors have been rendered blind. Okay. Wow. I didn't see that coming. No, pun intended. As I said, I haven't read the plot synopsis or heard of any of these. I knew some of the people involved, but that was with it. That seems like you just threw 2 premises together. Like, alright. I'm interested. No, I'm more interested to see if it's any good. I don't think I'll actually watch it, but I'd be interested to see if it works. Surely. What was that? That was a movie a couple of years ago, I think. Blindness, wasn't it? Where everyone just went blind. I guess they figured a post-apocalyptic one was just too overdone, so they said, hey, throw in some blindness for you. Series is going to be led by Jason Momoa and also stars Alfred Woodard, of course. So a good cast. Maybe it could work. I don't know. I imagine the budget for that is going to be quite big if it's post-apocalyptic, and I think that'll, that's a show that lives and die on how well executed the premise is. So, who knows? Half-hour comedy series next from Curtis Sittenfeld called You Think It, I'll Say It, which upends assumptions about class, relationships, and gender roles in a nation that feels both adrift and viscerally divided. Okay. That doesn't really tell us anything. Damien Chazelle is working on something as well. We don't really know anything about his show. Anyway, so, I don't know. Make it that way you will. Little America, another anthology series, because we don't have enough of them, is going to take a look at the funny, romantic, heartfelt, inspiring, and unexpected lives of immigrants in America. It's going to be from the people that gave us The Big Sick, Kumail Nanjiani and Emily Gordon. Another anthology series. At least it's going to be funny, romantic, heartfelt, and inspiring, apparently. I don't know. How many of those can you really do? Maybe a one-off series could work on that. I don't know. Swagger is a drama series based on the early life and career of NBA and Golden State Warriors player Kevin Durant. The show was inspired by Durant's experiences as a youth basketball player, and it will highlight the world of amateur athletic union basketball, taking a look into the lives of players, their families, or coaches. Not for me, but if you're into sports drama, I'm sure you'll enjoy that. Maybe. Servant, a psychological thriller produced by M. Night Shyamalan. The show is going to follow young people who hire a nanny to care for their newborn child. We don't know anything else aside from that. It's going to be 10 half-hour episodes. Lauren Ambrose from 6 Feet Under is the lead. Has Rupert Grint and Tony Kebbell as well, so it's got a good cast. And M. Night Shyamalan is a bit hit or miss, but it seems like the sort of show that you have to try to figure out the twist to. Although I think it probably works like in comparison to a show like You, which was massive. I think it could work on that level and be a bit of a breakout hit. We'll see. Another show from a big name creator, although he's only producing this, is Little Voice, which is being produced by J.J. Abrams. It's a romantic drama set in New York, which will feature songs from Sarah Bareilles. The show is going to explore the lives of characters in their early 20s as they struggle to find an authentic voice. Doesn't that sound exciting? Look, J.J. Abrams isn't necessarily a mark for quality on TV. He has produced a lot of stuff, so it can be hit or miss again. Like a lot of the stuff, I mean, they have a lot of names attached. In some of these cases, it feels like they're just attaching a name for publicity's sake. That doesn't really grab me as a premise, but maybe an execution could work. I have an animated series, because of course we do have to get a bit of variety. Coming from Lauren Bouchard, known for Bob's Burgers and Home Movies. It's described as a musical comedy called Central Park. It tells the story of a family of caretakers who live in Central Park. We're getting 2 13-episode seasons for this. Josh Gad, Kristen Bell, Stanley Tucci, and Titus Burgess are going to voice characters. I like Bob's Burgers. Could work. Certainly adds a bit of variety. I think this is the first animated show we've encountered, and maybe the only one they have on the service at the moment. But we'll see. Another one. I'm not sure about this one. And it is an adaptation of Isaac Asimov's Foundation. Now, very popular sci-fi book series. Isaac Asimov is obviously a famed sci-fi writer. I don't think this is any form of development. I think it's just they bought the rights to hopefully turn into it. Because I'm looking at a very extensive list here. And this comes from the website macrumors.com. The Foundation follows psychohistory expert and mathematician Harry Seldon, who is able to predict the future. Seldon creates a group called the Foundation to preserve humanity's collective knowledge ahead of the impending fall of the Galactic Empire. Look, I haven't read the book. That sounds a little bit dry. Who knows if it works as a TV series. But, look, I'm a bit down on a lot of these, to be honest. Not a great showing so far, and if the PG-13 rating is true, I'm even less interested in any of these, so we'll keep going. I'm not bored of this yet. Are you? And we're going to do a test at the end of this, just to see how excited you are for this streaming service. We have one called Dickinson, which is a comedy about the life of famous American poet Emily Dickinson. It offers a comedic look into Dickens's world, exploring the constraints of society, gender and family from the perspective of a budding writer who doesn't fit into her own time. I mean, also Emily Dickinson was like famously down and depressing, wasn't she? And a bit nuts. So I don't know how they're going to explore that. It seems a bit like you're underselling it when you just say, oh, she doesn't fit into her time. I mean, she was a bit nuts and a bit odd. I don't think she would fit in any time. She's, she had problems, from my understanding. I don't know. Then again, it could work as comedy, you never know. It's going to star Haley Steinfeld and Jane Krakowski from 30 Rock, so great cast again. They also have the rights to Shantaram, which is of course an acclaimed book by Gregory David Roberts. which focuses on a character named Lynn who is a convict that flees an Australian prison and then disappears into the city of Bombay. I haven't heard anything details on that aside from the fact that they have bought the rights to it, so who knows. A lot of these ones depends how successful it is, you know. I think they might just have a lot of properties ready to go, and if the service doesn't really take off, maybe a few of these will hit the back burner. An interesting one actually here is Home Before Dark, and I'm more interested in the thought process behind this, which is a drama series about Hilda Lysiak, a child journalist who publishes a newspaper called the Orange Street News in her hometown of Selins Grove, Pennsylvania. They're getting 10 episodes of this, so it's going to follow a young girl who moves from Brooklyn to the small lakeside town her father is from, where she unearths a cold case that everyone else in the town had attempted to bury. The story is based on Lysiak's own efforts to report a murder in Selins Grove, where she was the first person to expose it. That's an interesting one, because I wonder who the market for that is. I don't think adults are going to have any interest in following a child detective. It could be too dark for kids. It brings us back to the whole Nancy Drew problem. It's going to star Brooklyn Price, who was in the Florida Project, so I don't know about that one. Bit of an odd one. Calls, horror mystery show adapted from a French TV series of the same name. In France, Calls is a short-form series that tells stories based on snippets of audio taken from real-life situations with minimal use of visuals. So maybe they will make that. That sounds cheap. Time Bandits. They secure the rights to a TV show based on that. Taika Waititi is involved. Haven't heard much aside from that. Pachinko. God, this is getting exhausting. They secured the rights to a TV show based on Min Jin Lee's best-selling novel Pachinko, which chronicles the lives of 4 generations of a poor Korean immigrant family in Japan. They've ordered 8 episodes for this, so presumably it will get at least some life out of it. Mythic Quest is the next one. A half-hour scripted comedy created by Rob McElhenney and Charlie Day, of course, from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's set in a video game development studio. I love It's Always Sunny, but I presume they can't hardly keep that in the constraints of a PG-13 unless they're going a very different direction with it. It does have an interesting cast, though. F. Murray Abraham, for example. Danny Pudi. Who else is in it? Rob McElhenney is going to star in it as well, so presumably Charlie Day could pop up every now and then. And we have Losing Earth Climate Change Project. They purchased the rights to develop a new project based on the New York Times Magazine story, Losing Earth, the decade we almost stopped climate change. Okay then. Saving Jacob, a thriller based on the best-selling William Landay novel of the same name. Covers the murder of a 14-year-old boy and his friend Jacob, who may have committed the crime. This is going to star Chris Evans, who was at the whole presentation, and some people said he got bumped from the presentation. Maybe he did, I don't know. He was sitting in the audience and he looked very bored regardless, which seemed to be the general gist of a lot of people who watch this. They're also in negotiations to purchase the rights of an Israeli drama series called Nevelot, which means bastards. A violent and mature drama series that revolves around 2 military veterans who go on a killing spree targeting young people because they believe today's kids don't understand sacrifices of their generation. Howard Gordon, who created Homeland, is involved in this, and it could star Richard Gere. They're in a bidding war between Showtime, FX and Amazon for the show, so who knows if it ends up happening. Surely that can't be PG-13. Maybe that rumour isn't true. Thank God it's not. Hopefully not. Well, they're really doubling down on J.J. Abrams, though, because here's another one he's executive producing, which is My Glory Was I Had Such Friends, based on the 2017 memoir by Amy Silverstein, which follows a group of women who supported Silverstein as she waited for a life-saving heart transplant, which is set to star Jennifer Garner. Alright then. Simon Kinberg, famous for X-Men. Ugh, how many of these shows are they making, for God's sake? Remember when Netflix was starting off and you actually could name all the Netflix originals? Wasn't that a nice, quaint time? Now it seems like this is just a network that's just getting started. A streaming service is just getting started, and look how much shit they have. Anyway, we're nearly at the end. Simon Kinberg's sci-fi series, 10-episode season, described as a large budget, ambitious, character-driven show. Wow, that's impressive, Simon Kinberg. Is that the way you pitched it to them? That's nothing. That's it's going to go into production this summer. Presumably there's got to be more to it than that, but that is... Ugh, that's nothing. That covers just about every show. A large budget, ambitious, character-driven show. Yeah, we'll take one of those, please. Nonsense. The CIA drama series, based on life undercover, coming of age in CIA, a memoir written by CIA operative Amaryllis Fox, will offer a young look at a woman's journey in the CIA. Brie Larson is going to star in this, so there you go. They have a lot of decent talent attached as far as acting. Peanut series. Apple have the rights to produce new content based on Peanuts, so guessing that's coming. Oprah! Everyone loves Oprah apparently. She's also got a multi-year partnership with Apple. She's going to create original programs. She's working on 2 documentaries, one on sexual harassment in the workplace and a second on mental illness. So okay then. You do what you do, Oprah. Jason Katims, known for his work on Friday Night Lights and Parenthood, Roswell, Rise and About a Boy. He's going to be creating content. We don't really know anything aside from that, except he's signed a multi-year deal. Justin Lin, an exclusive TV development deal with his production company. We don't know what he's working on. Sesame Workshop. Apple is partnering with Sesame Workshop to create several TV shows for children. One of the first will be called Helpsters, and it is designed to teach preschoolers the basics of coding. So, that'll be interesting. They're kind of one hand washing the other if they go on to work for Apple, I guess. A24, of course, production company, made such low budget films and successful films as Moonlight, Room, The Witch, Ex Machina, you know, that's kind of stuff. They're going to make a film for Apple called On the Rocks. It's going to be directed by Sofia Coppola, set to star Bill Murray and Rashida Jones. Follows a young mother who reconnects with a larger-than-life Playboy father on an adventure through New York. So, you know, Sofia Coppola can at times deliver good movies. Bill Murray is pretty good, but it sounds like what you would expect from them. We'll see whether it's any good. The Elephant Queen, a feature-length documentary about an elephant matriarch who leads her herd to find a new watering hole. Alright then. Hala, directed by Minal Baig and executive produced by Jada Pinkett Smith, is a coming-of-age movie that follows the life of Hala, a 17-year-old girl attempting to navigate her social life as a teen in Chicago and her obligations as the only child to Pakistani immigrants. Wolfwalkers is another one, an animated film from Cartoon Saloon, who are, of course, Irish, and I think they did Book of Kells for one, Song of the Sea, is it called? Something like that. So they have gorgeous animation. Wolfwalkers is their latest film, and it's going to be put out by Apple TV+. Set in Ireland, as you can imagine, Robin, an Irish girl who's set on wiping out the demonic evil wolves until she meets a wild native girl, Maeve, whose friendship leads her to discover the world of the Wolfwalkers. So, interesting enough. That's the whole slate. Some stuff that's just in development, some stuff that's further along, ready to go for fall. I'll put this to you. You listen to me list all that stuff out. And granted, maybe it was my boring voice, maybe it was poor delivery. How many of those can you remember? Because I'm guessing the answer is not going to be many. I don't think there's any show there that fully grabs you. It sounds a little bit dry, some of these shows. Seems like they're more concerned with the talent they're getting than the shows they're producing. And that doesn't always work, of course. People with big names in the industry don't always succeed just because of their name on television. And when you have to get someone to buy a streaming service and you don't have a big get, I think that's an issue. Like when you look at, say, when Netflix started, they revived Arrested Development, which got a lot of people interested, especially internationally. It was obviously starting up domestically by that point, but internationally that dragged a lot of people in. You need something to hook people in. I think this is a case where it's too scattershot to work at the moment. Maybe that'll change. It's early days yet. Maybe it'll have a really good price. Perhaps we'll get a bit more information about these shows that will totally sell us, but at the moment I'm not entirely sold. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. It just feels very soulless, like these shows are just thrown together and they put some big names on them, but it doesn't sound like particularly interesting. I'm guessing they're just throwing a lot of money at this, but yeah, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but at the moment, nothing about these shows, any of them, have grabbed me really. But one show that grabbed a lot of people, as we move on to our next story, is Supernatural, which announced that it's going to end with its 15th season next year. I can't say I've watched Supernatural, but it had a lot of fans. A lot of people loved it. It was a huge franchise. I mean, 15 years, nothing to be sneezed at. It's going to come to an end next year, as I said. They confirmed that it's going to be 20 episodes set for its 15th season, and that when it concludes, it will have made 327 episodes, which is outstanding. I mean, there aren't that many shows that get to that stage. What an achievement. And I know some people kind of fell off this show because it was running for so long, but it was very popular in its time, and it's still quite popular to have run 15 seasons. I'd be interested to see what those actors, is it Jensen Ackles and Jared Palnecki? I'm pulling that out of my ass. I think those are their names. Be interested to see what they go on to, because they have huge fan bases online based around this show, so who knows, maybe we haven't seen that out to them. Let's talk about another famous duo, not just the Winchester brothers, which I think they're called. I'm pulling that out of my ass as well. I think I'm right there, the Winchester brothers. Okay, well, let's talk about the other two guys I was going to reference, which is Bill and Ted. They've, after a long time, a long rest, it looks like we're going to finally get Bill and Ted 3. Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves announced it in a video, which, poor Alex Winter, man. Alex Winter, who was aged totally naturally, and Keanu Reeves, who was a fucking vampire. Like, he had to stand next to him, and Alex Winter just looks like he's aged, and Keanu Reeves looks like he really has barely aged at all. He has grey in his beard. That's about it. Oh, poor Alex Winter. We were all Alex Winter in that moment. Everyone is Alex Winter standing next to Keanu Reeves. So, they've announced it. Bill and Ted Face the Music, as it's going to be called. It's coming out August 21st, 2020. That's not a date that's too bad. It's at the tail end of the summer, which you could get away with a release like that. I think there's a lot of excitement online, but that's never a good metric to discover how a film is actually going to do. I saw the first Bill and Ted a long time ago. I saw the second one even longer ago than that. I think I saw the second one first, if you can believe it. I have to give these another watch because I like a lot of aspects of them. Time travel and George Carlin and weird history dilemmas. So yeah, I could be into that. It's been in development for a long time, as I said. It is now moving forward. The original creators, Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, are involved. They wrote the script. And it's going to be directed by Dean Parasot, who gave us Galaxy Quest and Fun with Dick and Jane. So if you're a Bill and Ted fan, congratulations. You're finally getting a chance to see the Wild Stallions play one more time. But that's not the only beloved character set to return, because we are getting another Toxic Avenger film. It's going to be rebooted by Macon Blair. He's going to write it and direct it. He's probably best known for his collaborations with director Jeremy Saulnier. He was a lead role in this film, Blue Room, and he was a supporting role in Green Room. So he's going to direct this, and he has directed before. He directed I Don't Feel at Home with This World Anymore for Netflix, which I heard was quite good. I haven't actually watched it, but I mean, they seem like they're pretty different films, but regardless, he's going to write and direct a reboot of the Troma B-movie called Classic, The Toxic Avenger. The original Troma guys, including Lloyd Kaufman, are involved in this, and it's going to come from Legendary Pictures, who generally are fairly faithful to original films that they reboot or original franchises that they give their spin to. So looks like we're going to see the return of Toxie to the big screen, which is, you know, he's kind of an icon. I haven't seen any Toxic Avengers films, but has a huge following, and I think there's definitely a market for those low budget grungy B-movie horror movies now. So there you go, Toxie's coming back. Well, we spent a lot of time on the Kool-Aid this week. There were some big news stories that we talked about, as I said. Some of them, there's not much you can say, especially those last few stories. Really, you just have to sit and wait. But if there's even less to say about the films that we talk about in our quick hits, where we talk about 3 little bits of news, mock them, and quickly move on. Quick hits. Dora the Explorer's big budget live action movie is set to come out this summer. This week we got a trailer, and we also got some casting news. We currently have Eva Longoria and Michael Pena as Dora's parents, Benicio del Toro as Swipe of the Fox. Well, I'm very excited to announce that Danny Trejo is set to voice Boots, Dora's monkey. Wait. That's not the joke. This is real. Danny Trejo is voicing a talking monkey. With Boots. Could have told me that before I made a joke. I'm making a fucking idiot of myself. Nicolas Cage has filed for an annulment just 4 days after getting married in Las Vegas. He got married in Las Vegas to his girlfriend Erica Koik. Reports are saying that he was inebriated, and Erica tried to force him to marry her. Well, I guess it isn't just Peggy Sue getting married. Wait, I got another one. Maybe before he got too drunk, he should have started leaving Las Vegas. Does this mean there won't be a honeymoon in Vegas? Oh, this one was over so quick it was nearly gone in 60 seconds. It's a real Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance situation. No, I might have overreached with that one. Zack Snyder has made some controversial comments about his DC films. Speaking about the characterization of Superman and Batman, and specifically their stance on killing, he said, "Once you've lost your virginity to this fucking movie, and then you come and say to me something about, like, my superhero wouldn't do that." I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, down the fucking road on that. It's a cool point of view to be like, my heroes are still innocent. My heroes didn't fucking lie to America. My heroes didn't embezzle money from their corporations. My heroes didn't commit any atrocities. That's cool, but you're living in a fucking dream world. Yeah, you're living in a dream world where superheroes are heroes and try to save people. I'm living in the real world where aliens are metaphors for Jesus and people leave jars of piss at a crime scene. Fuck yeah, reality. How weird are those Zack Snyder comments? They're really odd, like. You can tell he really took Watchmen to heart, didn't he? Oh well. Moving on to our trailer trash. There was a few trailers this week, nothing too major, I would say. First one I want to talk about is Dora and the Lost City of Gold. which, as you can imagine, is Dora the Explorer. And first of all, let's say I didn't grow up with Dora the Explorer. I was out of that age group, and am I misremembering Dora the Explorer? It was basically like an educational show, right? And it was like, oh, what do you see? And you had to like, hey, it's behind you, Dora. And then she'd be like, oh, I found it. Thank you for your help, everybody. And she was like a toddler, right? And this is really weird. It's like a big budget kids version of Tomb Raider with a bit of Indiana Jones thrown in. So the trailer starts off with this thing of like, oh, Dora in the jungle. And then they're like, okay, now you can't stay in the jungle anymore, Dora. You need to be out of here. We're going to look for the lost city of gold. You're going to high school. And then these criminals are like, no, Dora, you're going to help us find the lost city of gold. And they just basically kidnap her and put her back in the jungle. So I guess we get a bit of fish out of water stuff for a while, and then she'll just be back in the jungle and be fine. It's really odd, because it's obviously a big budget thing, but it's like there's action scenes, and I don't think Dora was this ass kicker, was she? This adventurous, like, flipping around the place. I don't know, it's a bit odd. But it looks quite funny for what it is. Looks like it could be a bit of fun. It's directed by James Bowman, who gave us the Muppet films, so I'm interested in that for that alone. The cast isn't that bad either. It is like a parody of Dora the Explorer, from what I can tell. Which isn't the worst way to approach this, I guess, if you're going to do a big budget Dora the Explorer movie. I'm guessing they're just hoping for all these people that were kids that are now, you know, grown up, to see like a more grown up version of Dora the Explorer. But yeah, this is very weird. I think they're nervous about calling it Dora the Explorer, so they're just like, Dora and the Lost City of Gold. Don't call it Dora the Explorer. This isn't for babies. We've Danny Trejo voicing a monkey, goddammit. Which is also another question. So it's trying to be a bit more grounded, I guess, or action-packed. And then you're going to have a talking monkey and a talking fox? I don't know, I'm overthinking it. It looks like a fun trailer. So as I said, this isn't something I grew up with, but it looks like it could be a bit of fun. If it was on Netflix, I might give it a watch. Something like, I was just thinking actually about these trail properties that they're now rebooting, and that Kim Possible movie came out on the Disney Channel, and I didn't watch that, and that's probably more my wheelhouse, but maybe I could give this a watch. It looks like it could be a bit entertaining, and it's at least aware of how silly its premise is, and I enjoyed James Bowman's other work, so hopefully this could be a bit of fun. Another trailer we got this week was for John Wick 3, or John Wick 3 Parabellum. And yeah, it's a John Wick trailer, right? There's not much to go off. If you've seen the other trailers, I think you don't necessarily need to watch this one. I think what I do like is that it's definitely giving us a lot of moments where it isn't just John shooting a gun. You see him use a few other weapons, which is a welcome change pace. Knives in particular are something we see him use quite a bit in this. And of course, if you've seen the motorbike chase fight scene, or whatever you want to call it, I guess it's technically both, judging off the previous trailers. And he's using a sword in that scene. So it looks like they're trying to expand the franchise a little bit, and it looks like it's also going to leave New York. Pretty exciting stuff. It's a great trailer. I just don't feel that it's necessary. If you've seen the last trailer, it's fairly similar. There's not much more in this. I think it's fine. It looks very good. There's one scene that looks quite good visually. It reminds me a bit of Skyfall, where they're fighting in front of this big LED screen. But really, it's an inessential trailer if you've seen the other one. I think if you're a fan of John Wick movies, you know what you're getting into. If you've seen the previous trailer, you know what it is. It's good. It looks good visually. I'll be there pretty early on because I love these movies. And this one looks like more of the same, which is not a bad thing considering how good the last two were. They're going to kill that horse he's on though, aren't they? Like, absolutely. Being an animal in the John Wick universe isn't very good. I'm guessing he's going to set his new dog free. And the horse is going to die. Because we can watch 60 gunmen die, if not more, in one scene. But kill one animal and everyone gets pissed. Oh well. We did get a trailer as well this week for Deadwood, which is going to be a TV movie on HBO. I haven't watched it because I have not actually finished the Deadwood TV series. I'm on about season 2. So just to let you know it's out there, I haven't watched it. Last thing I'm going to talk about is something that just came out today as of this recording, and that is the Avengers Endgame. I guess they're calling it a special look. It's basically a minute-long clip, I guess, a minute-long trailer they put out to promote the fact that tickets are on sale. So if you haven't watched that and don't want to know any more about it, I don't think it's particularly spoilerish, but just, I guess, fair game spoilers, just in case you don't want to go in completely blind. Spoilers for that. I'll come back in about a minute. Am I too soon? I'm too soon. No, if you don't want to hear anything about the trailer, this is just an edit after the fact. Skip ahead about 90 seconds, okay? As I said, I don't think it's too spoilery. It kind of shows a few different things. We get to see Tony reuniting with Pepper, and we kind of see him dealing with the loss of Peter, which, you know, is quite heartbreaking to see. We see Rocket and Nebula reuniting and having a bit of a moment about presumably the death of all the other Guardians. We get to see a moment where Tony and Steve kind of bury the hatchet, so as it were. And yeah, it's an emotional minute. It looks like there's going to be a lot of emotional tolls in this film. One thing I should say, well, two things I should say. For one, gives us our first look at Thanos. He's in his armor and he seems to be kind of in a wreckage. We don't know where that is yet, but he's being approached by, I guess, three of the main Avengers: Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man. Which in the previous trailer, those are the ones they focused on. So I wonder if there's a chance those characters could be the ones that die, but who knows. The other thing I want to talk about is there's a shot in this that visually looks very similar to the first Avengers movie, except Tony is wearing his new suit. So could very well indicate that time travel is the solution here. Or maybe it's an alternate dimension, or who knows. There could be any number of possibilities, but yeah, so that's the trailer, or if whatever they're calling it a special look to announce that tickets were on sale. Okay, now let's mess with the people who left so they can get the trailer spoiled for them. So while Thanos is bending over, Ant-Man starts running at him, and then it cuts to black, which I can't believe they're actually going to go ahead with it. God, it's going to be impressive. Anyway, Endgame's coming out soon. Tickets are on sale now, as you might have heard. The demand for this movie is crazy. I've been recording this for a while. I've been recording this most of the day, and watching that unfold has been amazing. So, ticket sites around the world have crashed. Nearly all of them have. In countries all around the world, from what I can tell. The demand is 3 times the pre-sales of the first hour of Infinity War. I've heard of waiting times over an hour at some cinemas, and this is just online. This could make a lot of money. It also has pretty much a day and date release in China, so there is going to be a crazy huge opening weekend for this movie. I bought my tickets anywhere earlier, so I'll be seeing it at midnight, like some of the rest of you. I think I'm done watching trailers for Endgame now, though. It's not that far away. I have tickets booked. I'm just going to wait it out. No more. Be careful, because of course more and more now we're getting toys and leaks, so be careful and try to avoid spoilers out there. I heard there's apparently a Thanos teddy bear from the Build-A-Bear workshop that's shouting phrases that might spoil some parts of the movie, so I guess if you see a Thanos teddy that looks cute, don't press him. Try to avoid those spoilers, people. They're out there. As far as upcoming trailers, the day after this is recorded, I think we're getting a trailer for Joker, so we will talk about that next week, and I would imagine we're going to get a Spider-Man trailer soon. That's just speculation from me, but who knows. I'd say it's not far away anyway. And with that, we go on to the box office, and as we skipped a week, we actually have 2 weeks at the box office to analyse, so strap in, folks. Okay, so the weekend before the weekend that just passed, as if this can't get any more confusing, the weekend of the 22nd and 24th had the release of Jordan Peele's Us, which topped the box office with 70 million, which is pretty massive. It doubled the take of Peele's film Get Out, and one of the more mind-bending stats that I've heard. And you have to really think about this one. Now, put aside animated films. They aren't included in this statistic. But this is the largest opening for an original live-action film since Avatar. Now, that's a little sad. But when you look at the big openings, they're all adaptations of books or comics or what have you. So, yeah, it's a little bit sad. I don't know. Massive opening. Ending of it is a little bit divisive, so we'll see if that factors in. Oh wait, we don't even have to wait, because of course this is late. So this weekend just passed, which I think was the 30th, is it? 29th, 31st, yeah. We had the release of Dumbo, which was the big one. So let's go through the top 5 and we'll see how we go. There's no need to go through the 5 of the week before, because it didn't really change aside from us. So starting number 5, we had Unplanned, and Unplanned is an anti-abortion film. A lot of controversy surrounding this movie. Did very well for how many little theatres it was in. It was only in about a little over 1,000 theatres. But it's put out by Pureflix, who are like a Christian film production company. So they put out those movies like God's Not Dead and all those ones. So the controversy is stemmed from a few different places. For one, a lot of networks refuse to advertise it because it's very anti-abortion. Maybe they just disagree with that politically or for whatever reason. And there's also controversy about the rating of the movie, as they kind of wanted a PG-13 for it, but it got an R rating because of apparent graphic scenes involving abortion, and they didn't have enough time to appeal it from the sound of it, and they also didn't fill out the proper paperwork to get it appealed. So I think they were just hoping to drum up some controversy to sell this film. So either way, it's, of course, it's a lot of political grandstanding on both sides, but that's a pretty decent opening for the movie. It made 6 million, and the budget of it was 6 million. So I guess controversy sells, as it often does. 5 Feet Apart came in 4th, and this is its 3rd week on release, so that's not too shabby. That has a surprisingly good legs, actually. It's quite a modest film budget wise, and it's already made 35 million domestically, so that's very good. Captain Marvel is at 3rd. It's starting to slowly fade out of the box office, but it is going to pass 1 billion. Maybe even by the time this is released, it'll have passed 1 billion. It's very, very close now. So it will be the 6th MCU film to do that. It's performing outstandingly in China as well, which is obviously a massive market for it to succeed in. Coming in number 2, we have Us. So we said it did well 2nd week. As I said, I don't think the word of mouth was so bad that it got affected. It's kind of in line with most horror 2nd weekends. It fell to 33.6 million, which is 52.7. So look, this was a strange film because it has a budget of only 20 million, but they're estimated to have spent about 70 million on the marketing for this movie. So they kind of went insane on that, and because of that, of course, they have a massive hit in their hands, and it has done well overall. I'll review it a bit later. So whether or not it holds out next week with Pet Sematary, probably not. So I don't think the legs are going to be too strong in it, but it's made a decent bit of cash already, so no cause for concern really, because it still is quite cheap for what it made. Finally, we have Dumbo, which of course topped the box office this week. Not really a slam dunk though. It actually performed below expectations. The lowest expectations had it at about 50 million, with some people saying it could go as high as 60 million, and it only brought in 45, which is fine, but the word of mouth is not great in it. I think they're in an awkward place with this movie because it's meant to appeal to kids, and I've heard a lot of people say that kids find it quite boring. Other people kind of thought it was a little scary for some kids of a younger age, and I don't think even adults taking their kids to see this are particularly massive fans of Dumbo. So yeah, I don't know. It's got a pretty big budget. It has a budget of 170 million apparently, and it's really going to have to do well internationally to get that back, because domestically it's not likely to reach that number. So it's a really Disney live action movies, I think out of all the ones they're doing, Dumbo is one of the stranger ones. It has a lot more marketing muscle behind it, but it is quite an odd one, and the release strategy for these is even stranger. We have 3 of these Disney live action remakes coming out in 4 months. So this is the first one. We have Dumbo, then we have Aladdin in May, and then I think we have The Lion King in July. So they're packed very close together. They're being very quiet on marketing for The Lion King so far, but I guess that's a film that almost markets itself once people know how people are going to see it. So I don't think you need to win people over as much for that one. But yeah, Dumbo topped the box office. I'm going to bring back something that I totally forgot to do a couple of weeks ago, for probably a few weeks in a row, and that's the hack headline, where we take the winning box office week and give it a headline like you might see it in some blog or some crappy tweet or something. But I guess it's a double feature this week because we're 2 weeks at the box office. So our first one is Us is the King of US as it tops the box office. That was of course for the release of Us the first week. And here we go for Dumbo. You've probably seen just about everything, so people went to see an elephant fly. I don't know what you want, people, that's the best I got. Which at long last brings us to our weekly watch. A few things coming out this week actually. Not a bad week for releases. So in cinema we have 2 films coming out. We have Pet Sematary, which I mentioned earlier. Could have a possible issue with regards to Us, could hurt Us's legs, but From what I've heard, Pet Sematary is actually quite good. So if you're looking for a horror film, certainly check it out. Shazam is also opening this weekend. I'll be reviewing that in a sec. Shazam is really good, actually. And the reviews have been very good. I feel like they've really bottled it on the marketing in this movie, though. When you look at how much they went out for some of the other DC films, even some of the bad ones, it's quite odd that they're fairly quiet on this movie. Certainly comparatively, there's not a lot of marketing muscle. Maybe they're just hoping a good word of mouth and a low budget will help it. But it is quite strange to do that. Regardless, those are the two films coming to cinemas this week. On television, well, it actually just started this past week. I'll mention a few things that did start because we are putting out a little late. The Twilight Zone just started on CBS All Access. I know they've put the first episode up for free online, which I think is called The Comedian. It has Kumail Nanjiani in it. You know, reviews for this have been overall good. I've heard it's a little bit of a mixed bag, but like all anthology series, that's kind of the case. And when it's good, it's really good. I think like Jordan Peele was the right choice to bring this back. Barry and Veep also started on HBO on Sunday. Veep is now in its final season, and judging off any of the previous seasons, I'm sure it's hilarious. Barry season 2, first season was brilliant. I've heard the second season is also very good, so certainly feel free to check those out. Brockmire is coming back to IFC this Wednesday for season 3. That's the Hank Azaria sportscaster one. And a premiere on CW is In the Dark, which is about a blind 20-year-old who tries to find out what happened to her friend after she's dismissed as an unreliable witness by the police. I've only seen one review for this and it was mixed, so think of that what you will. It's on the CW, so maybe that'll tell you whether you're interested in it or not, to be honest. A lot of stuff coming to Netflix also this week. Friday gives us The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Part 2. I didn't finish the first part, but I did like it, and it was a hugely popular show, so if you've been waiting for the return of Sabrina, you only have to wait till Friday. Certainly a big hit for Netflix, and I'm sure we'll get way, way more Sabrina in the coming while. It seems like we only just got the first part, to be honest. But anyway, we also have a nature documentary from the team behind Planet Earth, also narrated by David Attenborough, called Our Planet, which is going up on Friday as well, so I'm sure that'll look fantastic on Netflix, and they kind of got it from out from under the BBC, so they're definitely trying to expand into different content. Nature isn't something they do much of. And then we have Unicorn Store going up on Friday as well, and it's the directorial debut of Brie Larson. Now, this is a strange one because it actually premiered at Toronto International Film Festival way back in September of 2017. Netflix picked it up. It seems like maybe no one had any interest in picking it up, considering how big the gap was. And Netflix just picked it up because they wanted content, so I don't know if that's as much for the movie. The reviews for it have been a little bit middling. I did see the trailer, and it's not for me anyway. It comes across as one of those movies that's just an indie movie. And I'm not putting that against indie movies. Of course, I like some indie movies, but you know what I mean. You know those movies that are just too happy to be indie. They're just being a little bit quirky, and they think that makes them good. I just didn't like it. It's like about some woman who gets offered to like have her dream job, and her dream job's to sell unicorns. And it's this whole like, oh, embrace the magic of the world and love yourself, and it's not for me. But if you have an interest, it's out there. Coming up on Friday, Unicorn Store, and Sarah Brie Larson, and also Samuel L. Jackson. So, Captain Marvel stars before they were in Captain Marvel for Unicorn Store. Which brings us to, I guess, our feature for the week. It's actually a double review because I'm reviewing two films this week. I'm reviewing Us and, of course, Shazam. I'm not going to do spoilers for them right off the bat, so if you want to hear my non-spoilers thoughts, you can listen to the start and I will inform you before spoilers come in, especially for Shazam because, of course, it hasn't hit general release yet. So, starting off first, we will talk about Jordan Peele's Us. So, a lot of people have probably seen this by now, but first off, I want to say I didn't find it very scary. And that's fine. I think that might just be a mistake of marketing, the way they really pushed this as a horror film. But I found even Get Out was a bit scary. Not that was that scary either, to be honest. And it's obviously not going for your standard horror fare. I think this is more a social and political commentary. It's kind of holding a mirror up to society, and that can be a bit frightening, I guess. I didn't think it was a bad film. Overall, it's well crafted. There's a lot of gorgeous shots and moments of symmetry kind of throughout. You know, you see shots one moment that will resonate into later on in the film. So I think it would be very good for a rewatch based on that alone. because I think when you know a bit more about the ending, the film will really hold up to a second viewing. Not that I'm going to see it again anytime soon, because I felt it dragged a little bit. So there was some really good performances, especially from Lupita Nyong'o. Winston Duke was also quite funny in the role. The visuals were quite haunting. I think everyone remembers the first trailer that came out for this around Christmas. I think it might have even been Christmas Day. And the visuals in that were really kind of terrifying, and they really suited the trailer. There is some of those in here, but I also feel like maybe there's not enough of them, or maybe we've just seen some of these already. Maybe they've been drilled into us from the marketing of the movie. I have to say, overall, I'm a bit let down. I did like Get Out a lot more than this. Which I actually felt Get Out was a little bit overrated as well, but I preferred this movie. But it's one of those movies that you should be happy with and praise, because overall it's not pandering. It's really trying something. It's being ambitious, and even though it might fail sometimes in trying to reach, it should be applauded for doing something a bit different. I think people are going to try poke a lot of holes in the film, and look, if that's something you enjoy doing, there's certainly plenty of that to do. But I think overall the movie is, it's more about a social and political statement than having a strong narrative or something that perfectly makes sense. And I understand people turning against it for some of those reasons, but that didn't bother me personally. I kind of saw it more as an allegory on a whole, so I can overlook it for some of those aspects that it was going for. It feels like, to me, it's going to be a film that'll be studied and analysed for a long time. It might even be looked at something through the lens of our political climate right now. And not just our political, where society and where the world is at right now in 2019. You always hear the suggestion that horror reflects our society, which is something I might go into at some point for a topic, because I think it'll be a great one. And I think to a certain degree that's true, and it's definitely very evident here. So overall, I think this movie is interesting. I feel like it's a movie that's hard to review, because it's not a film that you're going to love. I don't even think it's a film you'll necessarily enjoy. I think some people are going into this film expecting a out-and-out horror film, and they're coming away disappointed, and that's not completely their fault. I think that's kind of the marketing as well. If you're looking for a scary horror film, you're going to be disappointed. But I find it very interesting to analyse, and I think it's a very clever film, visually at least, and the way it's written, and it kind of almost has a certain layers to it, which are very interesting to peel back. Overall, I will agree, I was a bit disappointed, but I do think it's a good movie, even though there are some great visuals and great ideas in it. It feels a little bit more like a statement than a coherent story, and it's not particularly scary, and I took some points away from it by that, but I applaud it for being ambitious and for what it is, and I think it's an interesting film to analyse, which is what I'm going to do now. So if you haven't seen the film, I guess spoilers. I don't think I'm going to say anything too spoilers. I'm just going to give my impression of what I think the movie is about, what is an allegory for. So if you don't want to hear that, skip ahead. I don't want much to say on this film in general. I think it's a movie that you can't really discuss too much without discussing what you think your meaning is for it. And once you have that done, there's not really much else to say. So spoilers for us. So in my opinion, now look, I've seen a lot of people dispute or say what it's about, and I think what's good about this is that you can feel like there's a lot of different interpretations to it. Some people are saying it's about race or class in America, and there's certainly those aspects as well. The people coming out of the sewers, and it's obviously for people who have been oppressed, or it could be about the homeless population. That works as well. Obviously there are some allusions to race. You have the white family that is well off and has this perfect life compared to the African American family, even though when you see the white family, they're almost basically dead inside. Kind of a loveless marriage. There's aspects like that as well, and there's a few other moments where the dichotomy of black and versus white is played up a little bit, but it's a lot more subtle and a lot less evident than Get Out. So what do I think the film is about overall? What do I think the main point of this film is? And I think really it's a thesis on modern America, and they play on that a little bit. The film, of course, is called Us, but it could also be US, as in US of A, United States, whatever you want to call it. And I feel it's really about the division in society and the political sides and how vitriolic it's kind of become, and how left and right kind of demonize each other. But not, obviously not just left and right, but the idea of Democrats and Republicans, and essentially the idea that the overlooked members of society that felt forgotten about or marginalized have now taken over and are making their voices heard. So to me, that was a bit of a comparison to Republicans, or people who felt ignored and felt more empowered now that Trump is in office. And it's tough because, of course, you're sick about hearing about politics at times. But I think it's done subtly, and I don't think it's done in a preaching way. I don't think it shows either side to be right. But I think there's a few images that kind of hint at that. You, of course, have the Hands Across America. And again, what I think is really good with this film is that there's a lot of themes, a lot of analysis. Anytime I watch this movie, I was just thinking to myself, this is one I could see them teaching. Thinking back to classes I'd done on film in college, I could see this being analysed in college when it comes to film. Because I think there's a lot of different themes and a lot of different imagery that can tie into certain ideas of what the movie is about. And I think that's incredibly well done. I think it's a real testament to Jordan Peele that he's made something that is so layered. So that was my interpretation of it. And it sort of has this idea of, it can be terrifying, as in, someone might have voted a different way to you, and you don't really know who you're living. It's kind of like that fear of your neighbour, how we're all kind of turning on each other. And of course the idea that put it in my head, I think it's maybe not, I wouldn't say a bit on the nose, but something that makes you think about it, was when we get the mirror versions of the family and they say, oh, what are you? And of course they're all dressed in red, like the colour of the Republicans or whatever, and they're stating that we are Americans, which I think that sounds very much like something Republicans might say. Now, just to be clear, I'm Irish, so Republicans and Democrats, that means nothing to me. I'm just watching all that from afar, but that was at least my interpretation of it. And I think there's also a moment where, for example, they're on the beach, you see it in the first trailer, and there's like a blue circle on the towel, and we get a frisbee thrown onto it, and of course the red circle covers the blue entirely, so it's like the Republicans have taken over the Democrats' power, or in other words, the Republicans are in power when the Democrats used to be, what have you. So I think what is also interesting, and what is good, and what makes it not just some attack, if that was the message, is that neither side is really shown as glowing. Like the evil versions of the victims, and they were kind of experimented on in the context of film, while those on the surface had an almost ideal life, or at least tried to keep up the appearance of the perfect life. In fact, you could probably even argue that some of the evil ones were simply being oppressed and took their moment to rise up and be heard again. So I think it's not necessarily saying, oh, well, these people on the surface are great, and these people under the surface are evil. I don't think it's that simple. Both sides are, to a certain degree, not entirely innocent. There's badness on both sides, I guess, is what I would say. And in the end, since you'd even discover that they were swapped, we see that neither side is likely inherently evil, and essentially both are sides of the same coin. And you could even say that maybe there's a badness to both of them. Maybe it could even be going after the political party system in America as a whole. You could look at it that way. But I do think there's allegories to the modern state of America and the political system at the moment, with Republicans kind of coming to power over the Trump period, or whatever you want to call it. And the idea that one is stronger in body, which is what we see in the final fight when the person wins, and one is stronger in soul, because the replicated ones don't have souls. It's kind of like those can't exist without each other. They're both like half of the whole, as it were. And I don't know, those are that's just my thoughts. Look, so I still need a bit of time to think about it. This is just what is coming to my head. That's what a few thoughts, and I thought about it more and more, and I think it fit more and more. Like, you can think of the Hands Across America, and at the end we see it almost running up and down the land, and that kind of puts the border fence, or the border wall, I guess, that Trump wants into context. Maybe it's a reference to that. And I also thought of like we had that famous shot during the election of Trump where he was going up on the escalator, and it was like a big deal, and he was giving thumbs up or whatever. And I found it interesting that there was like an escalator going up from the sewers into kind of the surface world, or up to relevancy or safety or whatever you want to call it. And maybe it was an allusion to that, but look, that was just my my interpretation of it. That's what came to my head with it. And I will say at the same time, I'm watching this removed from being in America, just hearing just understanding a little bit about it. And I try to keep this podcast not political at all, so I guess that backfired for this movie, but that was my interpretation of it. So I'd love to hear what you people think of it. I don't mean you people. Oh damn, it is about race. I just mean I'd like to hear what other people's analysis of this movie was. What did you think it was an allegory for, or a metaphor for? Or did you like the film? Do you think it works, or whatever? I'd love to hear what you think. Okay, now let's mess with the people who came back from spoilers. So then Thanos is bent over and Ant-Man runs straight at his ass. Okay, let's talk about a different comic book movie. That theory is getting a lot of blame, man. Everyone knows that theory now. People on the street are talking about that. Could you imagine if they actually did it? And I know they won't. That would ruin everything, wouldn't it? I don't know if that would make people leave the Marvel universe, or if it would make people just go, I have to see the next Marvel movie. Certainly make Ant-Man 3 more interesting. If he had some PTSD from being up in Thanos' colon. Oh well. Anyway, let's move on to a different superhero film, which is Shazam. I know this isn't on general release yet, so I'm not going to be anywhere near spoilers for this one. I'm going to be a lot more light in touch. I'm not going to talk about any major plot points in the non-spoiler section. I will do a tiny bit on spoilers after, but you'll be well warned, and I'll tell you how far to jump ahead if you don't want to hear it. So Shazam is of course the next entry in the DC universe, DC Extended Universe, whatever we're meant to call it at this point, I don't even know. Okay, I'll say this, I haven't been a huge fan of a lot of the other DCU films. Even the ones that people loved, like say Aquaman and Wonder Woman, I didn't love. I thought they were fine. I was a bit lukewarm on them. I feel they were a bit overlong, excessive, and a bit tonally inconsistent. So those were kind of my feelings on the previous DCU films. Shazam's a character I've always found interesting. He's like goofy in a bit of a fun way. So I was interested in seeing how they would adapt him for film, because he's a probably stranger one than a few of them. And what we got, in my opinion, is fantastic. It's cheesy and fun, it's humorous and heroic, and has a real appreciation and awareness of the genre and tropes of a superhero film. And that makes it a refreshing change of pace from the other superhero films you've had lately. So, let's start a little bit with the plot. It's fairly straightforward. Essentially, the plot is just a kid coming to terms with what it means to be a hero, the forming of a moral code and his purpose. It's a bit like Spider-Man. In fact, I think the movie, in my opinion, owes a lot to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man film, the first one. The mantra of with great power comes great responsibility kind of rings true in this one, and it feels like a sort of throwback to a simpler, more fun superhero film without any hint of cynicism. Maybe Donner's Superman is another one you could compare it to. Talking about the cast, they're incredibly strong too. Asher Angel, whose name I knew, I hadn't seen him in anything. I thought he was rumoured for Spider-Man at one stage. Maybe that's why he popped up in my head. He managed to bring some weight to Billy Batson, and not just to make him feel like a lesser character than his alter ego. He really carries some good emotional scenes, and he has a realism about him. He really feels like a proper teenager, and I guess he is. But I mean, like, he's written like a teenager as well, which is, I guess, a testament to the writing as well. Zachary Levi, who of course plays Batson when he turns into Shazam, is charming and funny. You really believe his performance as being childlike. He's very, very charismatic in this. In fact, I think of as far as the casting for the DC films, he's up there as one of the best options, definitely. Our villain, Dr. Savannah, is a lot better than I thought he would be. First off, Mark Strong. Now, I like Mark Strong, but he's always playing bad guys, so I really wondered if he could pull it off without making it feel stale. But he's very good in this role. He comes off as a little bit fearless, and what is also very well done is that he's tied very directly to our superhero, which makes things a bit more interesting. And we also get to see his backstory play out almost in tandem with it at times, and see how his life kind of affects him, and we really do understand his motives and why he is a villain because of that. I was surprised how fleshed out he was as a villain, actually. It was a welcome surprise. As far as the supporting roles, we should probably give a special mention to Billy's friend Freddy. He's great in a role. He managed to get a lot of jokes. He's actually quite funny, and even though he's annoying at times, it works because we can therefore see why Billy gets annoyed with him at other times. He just seems like a real character. He seems like someone you could meet on the street, which again I think is a testament to not just the acting, but the writing as well. Billy's foster family in general is actually quite good. There's 4 of them? 5 of them including Freddy, yeah. 5 of them including Freddy, so a few of them shine more than others, so I'll give a few mentions. We have Darla, who's like the youngest sibling. She has a real sweetness and sense of energy. She gets big laughs. It's just a really cute kid character, and she's really funny. She does a great job, the little girl in that movie. Mary, she's the oldest sibling. She comes off as very sweet, very grounded, and she managed to deliver some emotional beats as well, which is a testament as well to the film, that it takes the time to give some of the side characters a little bit more depth than you would expect. I felt the other 2 foster kids were maybe a little bit underwritten, but it suited the role that they had in the story. You know, a character that's not really used to coming out of a cell, or a character that's a bit introverted, a bit of a gamer, that kind of way. The foster parents are fairly heartwarming. They get a real warmth in their performance, and they even get moments where they are getting a chance to be comedic, a sort of goofy parents. And it's really schmaltzy, but it works, I think. In fact, it probably plays that for humour more than anything. It feels like a much smaller film in scale, and I guess it is. Budget as well. Of course, it's much smaller than a lot of these superhero films, but it doesn't feel like a lesser film for that. I actually think the story benefits from having the character in such a normal environment. Like, we're not up in space or on some exotic island or country or, you know, some mystical world. It works having it be at a normal place with personal stakes. Makes it far more believable to have a kid in the suburbs getting powers and not having it be this big budget effects film. In fact, at times, how low scale and pedestrian it is provides some laughs, like Shazam charging for selfies or using his identity to try buy beer. It just feels very real. As far as the effects go, they're simple, but they work very well. There was no real noticeable moment where I thought the effects looked bad, at least on my initial viewing. I also found the flight scenes to be very natural. Good. I think, yeah, probably some of the most natural fight scenes I could think of. I can't think of another movie off the top of my head, at least. It looked sort of guerrilla style in the cinematography and my approach, and at times it worked. It didn't always work, in my opinion. It looked kind of handheld and shaky, which I guess added to the kind of realness and smaller budget aspect of it. But it was never too jarring, at least. The sets and costume are also incredibly well done. The Shazam costume looks a little bit better in motion. Some people were a bit nervous about that. They felt it looked like just an inflatable suit. But it does look better than you would think, at least. The effects are a little bit more subtle as well. It looks fairly natural. And I think maybe there's a bit more practical effects in this than you would expect. The Rock of Eternity set, which is of course where Shazam gets his powers and where the wizard Shazam, I guess, lives. Maybe he lives there. I don't know. It's where he resides anyway. It looks very atmospheric. It manages to look epic without clashing with the smaller scale of the rest of the movie. Now, the film also has, of course, a lot of humour, as you would expect. And while some of the jokes don't land on the whole, they work. And it adds to the fun of the movie. And, of course, you have to balance that humour with action. Which, if you're expecting a massive action scenes in this movie, or big kind of action, you'll probably be disappointed. The film really plays like a bit of a character piece more than anything, and introduces us to the world. It's not a knock on, the action in the movie. But if you're expecting that, you will be let down. I would say it's probably more in line with something like the first Deadpool movie, with regards to the scale and the action in the movie. So I'm not saying the action isn't good. There are actually some great action moments, and it feels genuine that we're watching a boy turned hero, and that is a bit unsure about his powers, finding someone who is a bit more adept. The final fight is a lot of fun. It finds a good balance between a small scale and big action beats. In a certain way, the movie just feels like a proper antidote to some of the other DC films, where it's not afraid to have a bit of fun. You can call some of the previous films lighter in tone, but this is on another level altogether. People were saying Wonder Woman was a bit lighter, or Justice League, or Aquaman. This is on a whole other level as far as being light and fun. I think it's great to have a film where we concentrate on the actual world these movies are set in. You know, Wonder Woman and Aquaman are quite removed from the real world. They're in Atlantis or Themyscira or World War One on the trenches, and this is really feels like it's in the world and in the DC extended universe. You know, obviously we've seen references to the superheroes in it, and it really feels natural. It doesn't feel like it's, you know, stretching to make those connections. It embraces it and it feels better for being set in that world. Now, I'm not going to say the film is without issue. I think there are some minor issues, nothing too major. I think the pacing is slightly off. It took a little bit of a while to get going for me. I was engrossed, and it wasn't necessary to set up the characters and set up the context of the story, but it did drag a little bit at the start. It does pick up though when he does become Shazam, and I don't think you would be bored because the humour keeps you on your feet if nothing else. Another possible pacing issue is the last act. I just felt it dragged out a little bit. There's like a big action scene and it kind of goes on for a little bit too long. And as I said, the action isn't the forefront of the movie. Some of the action is better than others. Some of the action in the last scene is good, but it gets a little bit repetitive. And I think might be another reason why it felt like it dragged a bit towards the end. But again, these are nitpicks. It's not like a major issue. You will enjoy it when you watch it. No problem. It is a really good movie. I would say the film is a little bit predictable, but that's mostly because there's not much to it. It's fairly straightforward, fairly simple. And that's not a knock at it. It nails what it does do, which is good. So overall, this film is brilliant, I would say. It had a lot of heart. It really understands what it means to be a hero. The humour and the tone is fun and light without being devoid of depth. And the film knows what it is and it embraces it. A cheesy, kind of happy-go-lucky superhero film. And the cast, in particular the leads, I would say Zachary Levi and Asher Angel, and even Mark Strong, do a tremendous job. It has emotional moments with a few big action beats without being bogged down with them. And it manages to take a silly premise and manages to make it work. It's unapologetically a superhero movie without a dose of cynicism, but plenty of laughs and set pieces instead. Feels like a real throwback. So that's what I would say about Shazam, non-spoilers. It's really good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Probably more than any of the other DC films to this date. And, well, the DCEU films anyway. It's probably my favourite. So, maybe that's just something about me. Go and see it for yourself. I would say that you won't regret it. It's a lot of fun. It's a very enjoyable film. I'm going to briefly get into spoilers. I'm not going to say much because, again, this film isn't even out yet properly. I might do another review on YouTube later on in the week, or something on spoilers. I'll have to see, but for now at least I'll do a little bit on spoilers. So from here on out, spoiler. Whoa, another ninja edit. Okay, if you don't want to hear spoilers for the movie and still want to hear the rest of the show, go to the 1 hour 49 minute mark. Right, so I did a trailer breakdown for the second trailer Shazam. I basically predicted the whole movie. I said that the 7 deadly sins are going to be broken out, and I pointed them out in the trailer. I was right, those were in the statue. And they were. Mark Strong broke them out. They teamed up with Mark Strong. I said that they're going to have the Marvel family to take on the 7 deadly sins, and that's exactly what happened. So all the foster kids, I guess that's the major spoiler in the film. If you know the comics, it's not that much of a spoiler. But I suppose if you're a general audience member, maybe you won't see it coming. Is that all of our foster kids and the foster family in general take on the powers of Shazam at the end, which sets up a lot of interesting stuff for a sequel. In fact, I might talk about the sequel a bit when we get into it a bit more. And I think it's strange that because there's a lot in this film. I think that seems like something you might want to save for your second movie. I don't know. Like, now it's just like everyone's a superhero. That feels like sort of break glass in case of emergency situation. You know, it's like, think of all the other superhero films. It's not like, you know, it's not like War Machine was War Machine straight away, or Falcon just showed up and was like, I'm Falcon. There had to be a build up to that, and just putting all the superheroes in the film at once, I don't know. It worked in the context of the story, and I'm sure they can make it work, but it feels like they put a lot in this film for a first movie, and it did work to its defense. But I wonder what that would mean for a sequel. Where do you take a sequel? I'm speaking of where you can take a sequel. I guess there's a sequel tease after the credits. This film has 2 end credit sequences. First one is a bit of, well, I'll do the second one first. Second one's just a joke. You might have seen it in some trailer. It's just him trying to talk to fish like Aquaman, because of course they're doing superhero tests throughout the film. The first one, though, is of course setting up a sequel. So Mark Strong does not die in this film. He gets put in prison, and he's writing these symbols which he had used to get to the Rock of Eternity to approach the wizard Shazam. And he's approached by a caterpillar, or I guess an alien worm more accurately, who we saw very briefly at the Rock of Eternity early on, called Mr. Mind. And Mr. Mind in the comics leads the Monster Society of Evil. So again, essentially he's like a talking or telepathic worm that sets up a league of bad guys, who I think were actually one of the first league of supervillains ever in comics. So I guess that's where a sequel is going to go. But does that mean you're just going to get a lot of villains thrown in at once? Or maybe it's not even going to be for a Shazam sequel. Maybe it could just be for the DC Universe in general. But then again, they also teased the Injustice League, or the Legion of Doom, or whatever at the end of Justice League. So I don't know. We'll have to see where that goes. There also was I'm not entirely sure about this one. I haven't really looked into it. It looked like there was a tease of Black Adam when Shazam talked about when they chose wrongly with him. Presumably, because in a lot of incarnations, the wizard does give Black Adam powers. And presumably he went the wrong path and they ended up locking him up again. But I'm not entirely sure. I know The Rock produced this film. And if this one's a big success, presumably we'll see Black Adam. But then again, Black Adam's just going to get a solo film anyway. Which also begs the question of, do we need a Black Adam film now? Is it just going to be too similar to Shazam? Like, those characters are very similar power-wise. So it seems like a weird idea to give Black Adam a solo film. Like, haven't we seen this before a little bit with Shazam? And then have them cross over and meet? Maybe your Shazam trilogy could be that. It's like Shazam, Black Adam, Shazam v Black Adam, but I'm not entirely confident that's what they're going to do. Like I said, I'm not entirely confident what they do with a sequel in general. I guess it's a team, the Monster Society of Evil versus the Marvel family, but I don't know. I'm trying to think, is there anything else spoilery in this? There really isn't. There's not many surprises in this film. Well, I guess you could talk about the gut punch of Billy meeting his mom. So I think it was pretty clear from the get-go that Billy's mom didn't want him, because they're at the fair and Billy goes missing, and of course years later he's looking to find her, and anyone that thinks about it for 2 seconds is like, well, the mom didn't come looking. And of course they point this out at pretty early on in the movie, so we're like, okay, well, she didn't look for him, so why should you care? And then he finally meets his mom, and his mom was kind of like, oh, look, I just felt you'd be better off without me. I don't really need you. I'm glad you grew up, but now was not a good time, kind of thing. And yeah, Asher Angel really kills it in the scene. It's really sad. Really, really got to me, actually, even though it's something I saw coming. So it was very well executed. I have to hand it to David F. Sandberg. He did a fantastic job with this movie. He really did. There's, for a film that I guess would be one of the sillier ones to adapt, he really managed to do it without making Shazam what he wasn't. He really embraced the character, and it turned out fantastic. So I don't think there's any other spoilers that I can think of, at least, that I need to address. I'm excited to see where this goes next. It's my favourite DCU film, certainly, and I'd like to see what happens next. I would say, well, I was going to say you should go see it, but I suppose if you're listening to spoilers, maybe you already saw it. If you have listened to spoilers, I would say you probably would still enjoy the movie, though. So definitely go give it a watch. I think I'd be interested to see how it actually performs, considering they're a lot more quiet about this movie than some of the other entries from DC. So who knows how it's going to perform. But anyway, I guess that's the end of spoilers. Oh wait, one more spoiler. So in the post-credit scene, Ant-Man shows up, and Thanos is bent over, and he just makes a run into the ass. How much can I do with that joke? I think I've run that joke into the ground this episode. Maybe that's the 3rd time I've dropped it. Oh well, see if we can find them all, because that is this week's episode. I guess it's also last week's episode. This week again, episode last week, which is why I think it might be the longest episode I've ever done. I pat myself on the back, but I don't know, is that a good thing? Well, okay. If you enjoyed this, please give us a positive rating, especially on iTunes. That would be awesome if you did. If you're listening to it on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment, like. I'm not going to say share. No one shares shit like that. Come on now. If you're on whatever platform you're on, I guess, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, subscribe. Whatever podcast you're on, app you're on, do the same, please. And you can, of course, reach out to the show at the email, popcultpod@gmail.com. Let me know what you thought of us, or Shazam, or point out some mistake I made, because I often make mistakes. Instagram, popcultpod, all one word. Twitter, pop_cult_pod. I lately getting a bit more into Twitter. David F. Sandberg liked my tweet. I put up a tweet with Superman wearing a mustache, which is pretty awesome. So yeah. Oh, and Facebook. I always forget about his Facebook group. Pop Cult Compound on Facebook. A lot of stuff going on, and I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we are looking at the second phase of the Marvel Universe. Long overdue. Things got a bit delayed, and then Shazam popped up. So I'm going to review the second phase, and in a couple of weeks then we'll do the third phase, and then we're at the Endgame, folks. So not long to go, but a lot more stuff to come up. So if you enjoyed this, please come back, because we can't spell cult without you. My ass is